make it as simple as we can. You see, one of the things that the Ramchal writes down, God did not create the world for the situation now. That's for sure. I don't think God enjoys seeing wars, people getting killed, Russia against Ukraine, all the, tragedies that we have gone through, in the world against Jews, against Muslims, against Christians, against blacks. I don't think God, created the world for that. That's what he says. Really, the purpose was for after the coming of Mashiach, which is called Olam Haba. It's a time that people actually enjoy godliness. To such an extent, the Rambam says the greatest pleasure is to enjoy God. It might be very boring to us, no? After 1 hour of class, we get bored. But if, let's say, we watch something exciting, you could watch it for 5 hours, and we don't get tired. So how could that be the greatest pleasure? So the Maimonides, the Rambam says, an example of, a blind person, if you're going to ask him, can you tell me the difference of blue and green? Of course he can't, because his eyes never saw colors. Or can you tell somebody that's deaf, God forbid, to tell you differences of notes of music, because they never heard anything? Of course not. So our bodies are blind, basically, to spiritual pleasures. So that's why for us, spirituality is boring sometimes. It might be exciting for the first half an hour, but after a while it gets a little bit boring. But the truth is, if our bodies wouldn't have been blind, right, we would have definitely enjoyed, godliness all the way through. So he says the purpose of creation is after coming of Mashiach, when there's going to be Tchias HaMesim, there's going to be resurrection. That's called Olam Haba. Now, simple question. So why am I here? If the purpose is after Mashiach comes, why did God put us in a place? Seems to be a mistake. Why am I here? Anyways, I'm sure some of you have answers. He put me in the wrong place, and I'm supposed to be in Beverly Hills. I'm in the valley. It doesn't make sense. What am I doing here? I'm supposed to be in Israel. I'm in America. So anyways, he gives two. Basically, the answer is God doesn't give anything for free. So there's two reasons given. One of them is a little bit deep. I'm sure you guys are very, very smart. We'll get it. So he says we are here first for a challenge, to do Torah mitzvot. And the way God creates the world, in a way, everything is a challenge. If somebody's poor, that's a challenge. Is he going to have faith in God, or is he going to start doing wrong stuff to make his parnasa? Somebody that's rich, that's also a challenge. Will actually be humble and give charity, or will he become arrogant and not help anyone? So everything is a challenge. And God put us here and put challenges in front of us. If we can do Torah and mitzvot, and obviously if we do it, then we're going to come to the times of Olam Haba. Why did we have to work hard? So it gives two reasons, people. I want to pay attention. If you can pay attention to this, let's see if it actually makes sense. I want to hear your input. So he says one thing, guys, if somebody goes, and let's imagine somebody wants to make money. So he's going to go to different synagogues. They have hundreds of synagogues in Los Angeles. He's going to every synagogue and he's going to beg for money. I promise he makes more money, probably more than having a job. Right? If every shoe gives $25, $30 and he goes to 10 shoes or 20 shoes, he makes close to $1,000 a day. But most people don't do that. They rather have a job, make less money, than rely on charity of people. Why? Because if you get something for free, it's embarrassing. The language that uses Nehema de Kisuf as bread of shame. So God could have actually created the world in times of Mashiach. We would have been perfect, we would have enjoyed ourselves, but we didn't earn it. In very simple terms, we would be freeloaders. It's not a nice word, but that's, the yeshiva world, that the boys use in the yeshiva. Nobody wants to be a freeloader. But if you're in the world and we do Torah and mitzvah, there is a challenge. But if you do it, you actually earn our attachment to God after Mashiach will come. That's the simple reason that Mesilla yesharim brings here. He has another sefer which is called Derech Hashem. He brings a much deeper reason. If you guys, hopefully we get it. If not, please ask me. So we go over it again. I think this second reason is even more important. There's a very big difference between us and God. God is a giver. He doesn't take anything. Us as creation, we are receivers. Not only that, we are very, very limited. God is infinite. The story of the Gemara that God doesn't take anything. He only gives. There was only a couple of times that he took something, and it was like a miracle. Anybody is familiar with the story in the Gemara? The leg of the table, exactly. You know what the story of the leg of the table is? I think it's Abchanino ben Dosa. So he was a very, very poor man. It says the entire Israel, they got their parnasa, their livelihood, because of his merit. The only problem was that he was a poor man. He only had, one small measurement of carat. You know what carat is? It's called boxar in Yiddish. That basically it's very hard fruit to eat. Honestly, it stinks. It's hard. It hurts your teeth. That's what he had. So his wife says, you know what? Come on. Everybody gets food because of you. Can't you ask God to send us, something? So he goes and prays. And behold, a miracle happens. A leg of a golden table falls down on the earth. So he takes it home. They're so happy. So that night, there's two versions in the Gemara. Either the wife had a dream or he himself had a dream. That after 120 years, they went to Gan Eden and everybody's table has 4 legs, but their table is shaky, only has 3 legs. So basically, he realized if he's going to get the reward in this world, he's going to be lacking in the world to come. So then the wife says, you know what, just pray to God to take it back. So he goes and prays. The Gemara says a hand came from heaven and took the leg away. The Gemara continues and he says, actually, the second miracle was a bigger miracle than the first one. Because we have a tradition that God gives. He doesn't need anything. He only gives, but he never takes. And this was one of the times in the history that God actually took something back. So again, God is a giver, we are a receiver, generally. Also, at the same time, God is infinite and we are finite. Right? We don't really make ourselves perfect. So how could a human being be connected to God? There's no way. There's no comparison between us. So the only way that happens that we get connected to God after Mashiach will come is if we will resemble God. That's what the Ramchal says. Very, very deep words. How could a human being resemble God? So he deserves to be connected to God. So it says what happens is God is complete on his own accord. Nobody made God perfect, right? By definition, the word, we can't really define God. But by definition, then he's called most perfect. Or Shleimuta de Kula, the most perfect being. So if you're born with challenges, I have a choice to be lacking, do wrong stuff, or I have a choice actually to do good things and become a perfect person. I have a choice to be a humble human being, be a giving human being, or I could become a very selfish human being. So if I decide to do negative things, I stay a person full of lacking, full of deficiencies. If I decide to make myself perfect, so I resemble God. Is that clear, people? Because I made myself perfect. Nobody made me perfect. So then I resemble God, I deserve to be attached to him. So these are the 2 reasons why we are put here first. Number 1, we shouldn't be freeloaders. No bread of shame. Number 2, for me to be connected to God after Mashiach will come, I have to resemble God. How could I resemble God? He's most perfect. And we are lacking. So if I make myself perfect, then I actually resemble God. Was that clear, people? Please, if not, I'll go over it again. I want to go, hopefully you all become Talmidei Chachamim, or I don't know how you say it for girls. Talmidos Chachamos, whatever you say. I have no idea. Scholars, English is easier. So anyways, if there's any questions, please don't be embarrassed, ask before we go further. I'm going to stop like in 5 or 6 minutes. Any questions? Everything is clear? Okay, so one more thing, that he actually explains. I wanted to go over this. We are actually very powerful people. What we do doesn't only have an effect on us. It has an effect on the entire world. Honestly, we think we are nothing. Does it make a difference if I do an Avera? Come on. Does really God care? Does it really make a difference in the world? If I'm going to do a mitzvah, it really makes a difference. And the problem is because we consider ourselves nothing. So sometimes we don't do a certain mitzvah into depression and we do an Avera. Everybody's running after me. I just thank God that he's not Biden. Be careful, he's going to raid your house. So don't never make sure it doesn't get to know that you're anti him. He's going to sit on the video. So anyways, Bidenomics. How's your parnasa, by the way? Better or was better during Trump? In public schools, they're afraid to say they're Republicans because the teachers will give them an F. But thank God we're not afraid of that. But anyways, getting sidetracked, he brings actually a couple examples. When we do a certain thing, we make a big impact in the world. We're going to go through a couple examples, and actually we're going to go through the logic. Number 1, Yaakov Avinu was going on a trip to get married. So on the way, he puts a stone under his head, and he puts a bunch of stones around his head to be protected. So the Torah says he took from the stones of the place, right? When he woke up the next morning, how many stones did he have? 1. All the stones united. Why? Why would God make such miracle? So over there, the Medrash says that all the stones started fighting. Why is Yaakov putting his head on top of this stone or next to this stone? We want to be next to Yaakov's head, under Yaakov's head. So God makes peace, like usual. No, Shalom. Bimroma, he makes peace and makes all the stones into one. Now, why would the stones care to be into one? So the Ramchal proves from here that when when a righteous person, a Jew, uses the world to serve God, he actually elevates the entire world. When you buy a house, you put a mezuzah on there, your house is not a house anymore. It becomes actually a mikdash, a holy place. When you guys study Torah in the school here, your tongue is not a human tongue anymore. Actually becomes a godly thing because you spoke divrei Torah. And the opposite is true also. You know, there's actually a medrash that it says God took Adam Arishon all around Gan Eden and he told him, you see all these trees and all the herbs, whatever that are created, I did it for you. I have only one request. Please don't do a sin to ruin yourself and ruin my entire world. The language is, ten daitecha, please be careful, take it to heart. Shelo tekalkel, that you shouldn't become corrupt, betachli vetolam, and destroy my whole world. So when you do something wrong, so it's not only that I ruin myself, but I actually ruin the entire world. So this is something very important to know for Rosh Hashanah too. As you know, the Rambam says that the world is judged after the majority, correct? Majority is good, it's going to be a good year. If the majority is not good, it's going to be a challenging year. I don't like to use the word bad. So you're going to call it challenging, but you know what it is, Maybe it's better not to be so much politically correct. Just use the right words. And then the Rambam also says you have to look at yourself 50-50. You are 50% good, 50% bad. So when you do one mitzvah, so the scale of mitzvah becomes heavier, then you have brought actually salvation to the whole world. Clear, people? Again, the purpose of creation is not for now, it's after Tchias HaMesim. We are here because we have to earn it, number one. We got to resemble God, to be able to be connected to Him, and never forget how powerful we are. We do one mitzvah, we elevate ourselves, we elevate the entire world. If God forbid I do an Avera, not only that I corrupt myself or actually cause some damages to my own soul and body, but actually has an effect on the entire world. So far we actually went through probably half of the first chapter. If you have any questions, people, let's do it. Otherwise, you got to be healthy to be able to learn. You got to eat something. So remember, when you make a bracha on that food, you actually elevate it. Believe it or not, it becomes part of you. So the plant becomes actually a human being. And then when you guys study Torah, that becomes something godly. You have tremendous amount of powers. Seriously. Anyways, any questions? No questions? Thank God it was simple. Thank you for allowing me to learn with you.